Mother Nature is relentlessly awful, and it doesn't come more disgusting than the world of parasites. Brace yourself to be infected by gruesome YouTube content. These are some of the spookiest parasites on the planet. The cordyceps may look like the fingers of a banana-colored corpse reaching up from the grave, but it is actually a genus of ascomycete fungi that includes a whopping 400 species. Most cordyceps are, here we go with the long science words, endoparasitoids. That's an organism that lives in close association with the host at the host's expense. Venom and Eddie Brock style, and eventually annihilates its host. The biology of parasitoidism was actually the inspiration behind the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise of movies. So, when we use words like host, what exactly is it the cordyceps do? Simply put, it turns ants into zombies. The cordyceps has just two ambitions: self-propagation and dispersal. It achieves this by releasing spores into the air that can penetrate an ant's exoskeleton and then slowly takes control of its behavior, the ant becoming nothing but a pawn to the cordyceps. The infection advances until the ant is compelled to abandon its home, willingly marching itself into the fungi's lair, where its innards are then consumed by the fungus. Imagine a supervillain so powerful, he could compel you to hand yourself over to him to be willingly destroyed. That's what the cordyceps is, but for ants. They are not all bad though, actually serving as a common ingredient in a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. The spookily named crypt keeper wasp, though it also has the far more formal name of the Euderus set, is a tiny wasp from the southeastern United States. But this small little critter made headline news in 2017 when a description of its life cycle attracted widespread publicity. It's named after the Egyptian god of evil and chaos for a reason. Things are about to get gruesome. The crypt keep lays its eggs inside a tiny wooden chamber that is carved out in oak trees by another type of parasitic wasp, the gall wasp. Once the egg hatches, the crypt keep larva will burrow into the body of the resident gall wasp, take over his mental functions, and force it to tunnel through the tree bark to freedom. It does this because the larva is too weak to escape the tree alone, so it needs to use the gall wasp's body like a sort of powerful mech suit. The larva is a Power Ranger. The poor gall wasp is the unwilling Zord. But even more deranged than this is that the larva forces its poor victims to drill a hole too small for its own escape. This means that the gall wasp gets wedged in the opening in the tree it's created. The crypt keeper larva consumes its host from the inside out before erupting out of its forehead and into the world beyond the tree. The green-banded broodsac, Leucochloridium paradoxum, is both a parasitic flatworm that uses gastropods as an intermediate host and a great name for a grunge band. The worm, when it's in its larval stage, travels in the digestive system of the snail, which is somehow more disgusting than everything we've already seen. Broodsac eggs can be found in bird droppings, which snails like to eat, presumably because there isn't a McDonald's nearby. Within the snail's body, in hiding, the broodsac develops into its next stage, becoming something called a sporocyst. It grows into long tubes that invade the snail's eye stalks, causing them to transform from their normal look into a pulsating, swollen display more akin to two wriggling caterpillars atop the snail's head. The broodsac now has control of the snail, driving the snail out of its usual habitat in the dark out into the light. Snails normally avoid the sun so they can escape their number one predator, birds. But the broodsac wants to be caught. When the mind-controlled snail is eventually caught by the bird, it is eaten, meaning the sporocyst is now inside the bird's digestive tract. It hides here until adulthood, where it then releases eggs into the bird's rectum, and these eggs are then excreted. In the most deranged version of the circle of life ever, snails then eat those bird droppings and the whole thing happens again. We really hope that's not what Elton John was singing about on the Lion King soundtrack. We couldn't possibly do a video like this without exploring the legendary lethal mosquito. The term mosquito actually refers to a group of about 3,500 different species of the fly. They are physically defined by their slender and segmented body, with a singular pair of wings and a trio of long hair-like legs and, of course, the infamously elongated mouth. Their life cycle, like all flies, goes through 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Each of these stages lasts just 5 to 14 days. They are known, despite their minuscule size, for being one of the deadliest animals on the planet. But the twist is, mosquitoes themselves aren't actually all that lethal. It's what they carry inside them that makes them the first thing in the list to pose a real threat to humanity. Mosquitoes can act as carriers for a laundry list of disease-causing parasites and viruses. Just some of these things that they carry can include yellow fever, West Nile virus, Zika, lymphatic filariasis, and the most infamous of all, malaria, which is responsible for the deaths of 2 million people a year. This mosquito-borne infectious disease can affect animals as well as humans, with symptoms including tiredness, vomiting, and fever. In more severe cases, it leads to a yellowing of the skin, comas, and of course, the dreaded D word. Symptoms often don't show themselves until 10 to 15 days after the bite. When treated properly, people with this terrifying disease can actually expect to make a complete recovery. But the more severe cases often progress far too rapidly for anything to be done. The Gordian worm of the phylum Nemetamorpha may sound like a rubbish Doctor Who villain, but it's actually a 2 to 4 inch worm that can be found in damp areas that has a stupid habit of getting its own body caught up in knots. Because of this, it is named in reference to the Gordian knot, a legend associated with Alexander the Great. But we're not here to talk about that, so research it in your own time. But much like many other things on this list, they really enjoy the insides of other creatures. Gordian worm larvae loiter in the water in the hopes of being accidentally drunk by a grasshopper. Once inside, they steadily grow over time until they have come to occupy the grasshopper's entire body, sans head and legs. A bit like when your romantic partner moves themselves in and, before you know what's happening, their junk is all over your nice flat. The worm then releases a protein into the grasshopper's system that affects their central nervous system, prompting the grasshopper to march itself to the nearest water. Now, having been returned home, the worm wiggles out of the grasshopper's body and re-enters the water. In doing so, the poor grasshopper is left to drown. You may be thinking, that's horrifying, but at least it can't happen to me. But hold on, the guinea worm can actually do something similar to people. If you are infected by the guinea worm, it will cause a burning sensation in the feet that is so intense the victim will feel compelled to plunge their toes into ice-cold water. This is for the best, as the guinea worm triggers the burning sensation because it wants to leave the human host's body but needs water to release itself into. Lots of Mother Nature's most horrific creations seem to enjoy taking control of others, and never is that clearer than in the name of the crab hacker barnacle. Sacculina carcini. This species of barnacle is a parasite that likes to use crabs, especially green crabs, as unwilling hosts. Most barnacles are quite content to cling onto a rock formation for their entire existence, but the crab hacker has far loftier ambitions. The microscopic larvae seek out an unwilling crab using their sensory organs. Upon success, it will settle itself on a particularly vulnerable part of the crab. More often than not, the membrane at the base of one of the crab's hairs. Over time, the larva grows into something resembling a living syringe that stabs the base of the crab's hair, injecting a microscopic blob into the poor crab's bloodstream. With time, this blob grows and grows into a parasite that takes over the crab's entire body. Interestingly, the crab hacker isn't just different from all other barnacles in behavior, but appearance too. It is visually far closer to the root of a plant. Once penetrated into the crab, its many tendrils spread throughout the crab's interior, seizing control of the shelly critter. Once it has control of the crab's mind and body, it uses the crab's claws to castrate itself, presumably for no reason other than humiliation, and sets the crab to a very important task: babysitting other young crab hacker barnacles. Imagine going through all that effort just to find someone to look after your kids. Then again, good babysitters are hard to come by in this day and age. An amusing quirk of the crab hacker barnacle is that it has actually had a far bigger impact on the ecosystem than it could ever know. Crabs normally eat a crazy number of mussels, but a crab infected by a crab hacker, but not yet fully controlled, has a drastically reduced appetite. As a result, areas with a lot of crabhacker barnacles have seen a huge rise in the number of mussels. The Toxoplasma gondii is a one-celled little monster that causes the infectious disease toxoplasmosis. This can affect any warm-blooded animals, including humans. Toxoplasma gondii can find its way into humans via means such as blood transfusions, drinking unpasteurized goat milk, and consuming raw or undercooked meat. Toxoplasma gondii likes to reproduce in the intestinal tract of domestic cats and is often spread through feline fecal matter. Toxoplasmosis can strip a victim of their inhibitions, making them far more reckless. For example, if mice are infected, they lose their fear of cats, making it far easier for cats to catch the poor rodents. Rather shockingly, almost a third of humans are infected with it. But thankfully, it is only dangerous for people with poor immune systems and pregnant women. Because toxoplasmosis messes with the brains of its victims, many people believe that certain character traits, such as neuroticism or recklessness, are not character traits at all, but actually a result of undiagnosed toxoplasmosis. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you had to be a parasite, which one would you be? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked the video, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new video arrives. Thanks for watching.